Now to a 17 News investigation. The question, who has the better chicken sandwich? Chick-fil-A or Popeyes?
Two people can order what feels like the same fast food meal, a burger, fries, and a drink, and pay a $5, sometimes $10 difference, depending entirely on which chain they pulled into. We dug through actual pricing studies comparing dozens of fast food chains item by item, and the results are more surprising than you'd expect. A few budget chains aren't nearly as cheap as their reputation, and a couple of the most expensive names on this list will genuinely shock you. If you want to actually save money instead of just watching other people do it, subscribe. Let's get into the results. This breakdown draws from a few different real pricing studies rather than just brand reputation or personal opinion. One analysis compared 54 menu items across 6 categories: breakfast, fries, nuggets, desserts, value items, and signature offerings across 9 major fast food chains, measuring cost relative to calories to keep the comparison fair across wildly different portion sizes. Another study reviewed tens of thousands of Google reviews across dozens of US cities, specifically looking for language like overpriced and rip-off, to see which chains customers themselves consider the worst value, rather than relying on outside analysts to make that call. And a separate pricing survey tracked average per item cost and year-over-year price increases across the industry's biggest names, gathered through actual in-store visits and business-reported data. Together, these 3 approaches paint a pretty clear, and occasionally contradictory, picture of who's actually cheap and who just markets themselves that way. Part 1. The cheapest chains. 1. Taco Bell, the overall cheapest fast food chain. Across the full 54-item comparison study, Taco Bell came out on top as the single cheapest fast food chain in the country. It won outright on breakfast items and fries, and placed second in nuggets, desserts, and value items. This isn't just about the famously cheap tacos. Taco Bell's structure of stackable, mix-and-match value items means it's genuinely difficult to spend a lot there even if you order several things. If you're optimizing purely for price, this is the chain the data says to default to. 2. Wendy's, cheapest dessert, but read the fine print. Wendy's placed second overall in the same study, largely on the strength of having the cheapest dessert category of any chain measured. Wendy's Biggie Deals, the modern descendants of the old 4 for $4 promotion, let you grab a small burger, fries, a drink, and nuggets all for around $4, which is a genuinely strong deal if you know to order from that specific menu. But hang on to that thought, because Wendy's is about to show up again later in this video in a very different context. 3. Burger King, cheapest chicken nuggets in the country. Burger King took 3rd place overall, and its 10-piece chicken nuggets came in at just 77 cents per 100 calories, a noticeably better deal than comparable items from KFC or Chick-fil-A. Burger King also wins on the cheapest chicken sandwich category with its Simple Chicken Jr., and it regularly runs aggressive promotions on top of its already competitive baseline pricing, which is part of why it keeps landing near the top of these value rankings year after year. 4. Popeyes, best value chicken sandwich, beating Chick-fil-A. In the chicken sandwich category specifically, Popeyes beat out Chick-fil-A on pure value, coming in at 76 cents per 100 calories, roughly half the cost of Chick-fil-A's comparable sandwich. Considering how much cultural buzz Chick-fil-A's sandwich generates, this is a genuinely underrated result. You're getting a comparable fried chicken sandwich experience for close to half the price. 5. Jack in the Box, the cheapest tacos, by a landslide. If tacos are what you're after, Jack in the Box wins decisively with 2 crunchy tacos for 99 cents, which blows away nearly every competitor. Compare that to Del Taco, which charges just over $1 for a single snack taco, or Taco Bell's cheapest taco option running $1.59 to $1.79 on its own, and Jack in the Box's 2 for 99 cents deal is genuinely one of the best per item values in all of fast food. 6. Whataburger, the best deal. By actual ounce of beef, this is a slightly different way of measuring value, but it's a good one. Cost per ounce of beef in the burger itself. Whataburger's classic cheeseburger came out on top of an entire industry study at just $1.66 per ounce of beef, the lowest of any chain measured. Its patty weighs 3.56 ounces, the largest in the comparison. And even though the roughly $5.92 menu price is higher than a McDonald's cheeseburger at around $2.39, you're getting meaningfully more meat for that extra money. It's a reminder that the cheapest looking price tag isn't always the actual best value once you account for portion size. So that's the cheap side of the list. 6 real, data-backed winners. Now we're flipping it completely, and a couple of these results are going to be genuinely surprising. If you want the full breakdown saved for later, subscribing is the easiest way to find this again. Let's get into who's actually charging the most. Part 2. The most expensive chain 7. Shake Shack, America's most overpriced chain, according to reviewers themselves. A separate study analyzed over 57,000 Google reviews across more than 10,000 restaurants in 50 major U.S. cities, specifically searching for complaint language like overpriced, rip-off, and not worth it. Shake Shack topped that list as the single most complained about chain for value, and it's not hard to see why. Specialty burgers regularly push past $15, and adding fries and a drink to that order can send the total above $25 for a single person's meal. That's genuinely restaurant-tier pricing wearing a fast food label. 8. Five Guys, the second most overpriced chain. Right behind Shake Shack in that same reviewer complaint study, Five Guys has built a long-standing reputation as one of the pricier names in the burger world, and recent numbers back that reputation up. At one New York location, a classic hamburger jumped from $9.89 in 2025 to $10.79 in 2026. And even the little versions on the menu, which are supposed to be the budget option, still climbed roughly 30 cents across the board in that same period. The one silver lining: toppings are still free, which is more than you can say for a lot of competitors. 9. Wendy's, cheap value menu, but the most expensive chain overall by average price. Here's the twist we set up earlier. Even though Wendy's technically has one of the cheapest value menus and the cheapest dessert category in that first study, a separate pricing analysis found Wendy's actually overtook Burger King as the most expensive fast food chain when you look at average item price across the full menu. Sitting at $6.63 per item after a 35% price increase in a single year, the largest jump of any major chain measured. The explanation is pretty simple once you see it. Wendy's flagship items, like the Baconator at nearly $10 and the Dave's Single at almost $6 on its own, pull the average way up, even while the value menu stays genuinely cheap if you know to stick to it. This is the single best example on this entire list of why cheapest chain and cheapest way to order at that chain can be two completely different answers. 10. McDonald's, most expensive across 4 of 6 menu categories, despite its value reputation. This might be the most surprising result of the whole video. Despite decades of dollar menu branding and constant value meal advertising, the 54-item study found McDonald's was actually the most expensive chain across 4 of the 6 categories measured, including breakfast and desserts. Its Egg McMuffin averaged $1.74 per 100 calories, and its Oreo McFlurry came in at $1.41 per 100 calories, both among the priciest options in their categories industry-wide. Its chicken sandwich also landed dead last in value in that comparison. McDonald's still offers genuinely cheap individual items, like the $1.50 McChicken, but on average, across the full menu, the data tells a very different story than the brand's reputation suggests. 11. Chick-fil-A, one of the steepest price increases in the industry. Chick-fil-A posted the second largest year-over-year price increase among the major chains tracked, jumping 15.6% in a single year to an average item price of $4.65. Its grilled chicken sandwich alone rose 66 cents to a national average of $7.23. Combined with earlier findings on the value comparison, where Popeyes beat it outright on cost per calorie, Chick-fil-A is a clear example of a chain whose beloved reputation and rising prices are moving in the same direction at the same time. 12. Dave's Hot Chicken. Sticker shock. Once you look at family meals, individual orders at Dave's Hot Chicken already run higher than most fast food, with loaded fries around $7 and slider and fries combos starting near $11 and climbing toward $18 for the pressure combinations. But the real surprise is in the family size options. 20 mini sliders will run you $45, 10 tenders cost $55, 10 regular sliders reach $75, and 10 cauliflower sliders top out at a startling $95. Portions are genuinely large and shareable, but those are numbers that would look at home on a sit-down restaurant menu, not a fast casual drive-thru. Part 3. A few more surprising results by category. A few more results from these same studies are worth calling out on their own because they don't fit neatly into either the cheap or expensive bucket. They're more about which chain wins in a very specific, narrow category. Culver's doesn't show up on either extreme of this list, but it's worth a mention here because of how it's priced relative to expectations. A single patty Whataburger runs $5 to $6, right around Wendy's territory. But add fries and a drink, and the total climbs toward $15 on average, putting a full Culver's meal closer to Five Guys pricing than to the value-focused chains at the top of this list. The most expensive item on the menu, the Triple Patty Bacon Deluxe, runs around $13 on its own, and closer to $18 with a side and drink. Panda Express is another chain whose reputation as a quick, affordable option hasn't quite kept up with its actual current pricing. Portions remain generous, but premium entree plates now regularly land near $14, and the chain's larger, bigger plate option can exceed $16 depending on what you choose. Numbers that would have seemed unthinkable for a fast casual Chinese food counter just a few years ago. And Checkers and Rallies deserves a mention as a genuine hidden value pick. Item for item, it consistently undercuts Burger King, often by $1 to $2 on comparable burgers and breakfast sandwiches. And its Big Buford combo actually delivers more food than a comparable Whopper meal for less money. It's a smaller, less nationally recognized chain, but where it's available, it's one of the stronger value plays that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as Taco Bell or Burger King. The biggest takeaway: it's not the chain, it's the order. If there's one pattern that shows up again and again across every single one of these studies, it's this. Almost every chain on this list has both a genuinely cheap way to order and a genuinely expensive way to order, and the gap between those two paths can be enormous. Wendy's and McDonald's both prove this perfectly. Both have real, useful value menus, and both also have flagship items that pull their average pricing into most expensive in the industry territory. The chains that actually stay cheap across the board, like Taco Bell and Burger King, tend to do it by building their whole menu structure around small, stackable items rather than a handful of expensive flagship products designed to be the star of the menu board. So the real lesson isn't just which chain is cheapest, it's learning which menu, within each chain, you're actually supposed to be ordering from. A Wendy's Biggie Bag and a Wendy's Baconator combo are technically the same restaurant, but they might as well be two completely different price categories. The same goes for McDonald's. A $1.50 McChicken and a Big Mac meal with a large fries and drink can be a $5 or more swing depending purely on which part of the menu you're looking at. Before your next drive-thru trip, it's worth a quick glance at whichever chain's dedicated value section. Most now have one, even if it's tucked into a separate part of the app or menu board, because that's consistently where the real savings are hiding, regardless of which chain you end up at. So there's the real cheapest to most expensive breakdown, backed by actual pricing data instead of just brand reputation. Which one of these results surprised you the most? McDonald's landing near the top of the expensive list, or Wendy's showing up on both ends at once? Let me know in the comments. If this helped, give it a like, subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and I'll see you in the next one.